Welcome to Helgar Industries. Today we're going to cover the issue of communication. One of the first important issues with communication and the benefits of communication is unification. Businesses and corporations actually need to have unification. Unification is a way of drawing people together, having them all to understand their roles, their part in the operation of a business. It helps them to feel like a group. It helps them to be motivated and encouraged. It also facilitates a great deal of the communication amongst people. It encourages the business's employees and managers to further desire to communicate with each other. It creates an ease of interaction. So unifying communication is a very important part in keeping things fluid, keeping things moving along, drawing people together, encouraging them, right? Focusing them, motivating them. Right? And then there's the communication of the chain of command. When people are communicating with each other and they possess a certain title, a certain responsibility, a certain amount of power or influence, it helps other people to maintain their bearings about it. It helps them to put the proper weight on it. It encourages them to communicate with people irregardless of their rank, their power, their influence. It creates an opportunity to facilitate. It also removes bottlenecks and unnecessary roadblocks to communication. While at the same time, it also improves an understanding across the business, across the ranks and the hierarchy and whatnot. It keeps people in control to some degree as well. It serves the purpose of helping people to see the power structure in the business, and that's a good thing. And then from the chain of command, communication offers an opportunity to prioritize, to rank the issues 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. It focuses individuals, it focuses management, it focuses employees, and sometimes it helps customers to focus. People like to know what's coming next. It helps them to prepare and to stabilize themselves as they move forward. It's also a motivator. It's nice to know what's around the bend, what's at the top of the mountain, what's in the valley, what they'll encounter first in the valleys. It's a good motivator. It's a good focuser. And people generally, management, employees, customers generally appreciate a bit of what's coming up ahead, right, and what's around the bend. And then beyond prioritizing, communication offers an opportunity to emphasize, to weigh things. It's different from prioritizing, and that prioritizing gives you a what's next kind of thing. But when you're talking emphasizing, you're talking about where along that chain of communication, where along the activities, it becomes more important. Where they should focus most, where their skills are going to be most desired, where the challenges are going to be most readily found, right? That's also a motivator. It's a heads up, emphasizing the importance of a step encourages people to be ready, to be focused, to be even more motivated. It helps them to pull their resources together and to focus in order to get the job done. It lets them know how much effort to not only expect for themselves and to give forward from themselves, but it helps them to understand how much effort and focus should come from the other participants in the communication process. So emphasizing is a big deal. And then you get to an issue of the rate of change, right? When people need to know the rate of change. When you're communicating to someone about things that in general generates change, they want to know the rate. You know, they want to know how fast things are going to be moving throughout the process. You know, rate of change is a very important aspect of communication. It's a motivator. It's a focus. It helps people to prepare their skill sets, to know what kind of resources they'll need to deal with the rate of change, right? It helps them to get everything in place, in alignment. And then finally, when you're talking about the rate of change of a process, of an activity, of an interaction, of a responsibility, you're talking about skill sets. People want to be prepared. You know, if it's going to be a bumpy road at a fast pace, people want to know. You know, having a solid skill set, knowing what to brush up on, knowing what kind of materials to bring along with you, knowing who to include in the process, who has the skill sets to handle the rate of change. Right? So getting the skill sets together is a very important aspect of communication. Communicating what the rate of change is and what the skill set is that's necessary to handle that rate of change. And then there's the all-important part of communication known as the analyzing, sharing, gathering data and sharing data. The analysis is a great thing. I mean, knowing the whole context of what is, you know, how it relates to the other parts of things, how it relates to the competition, you know. And analysis is a very important part of communication. It gives a great deal of details about not only the product, the company, but the market, its vendors, its competitors, the industry in general, you know, the population, the makeup of a consumer base. It's very important, right? When you're talking about the analysis part, and then finally there's the what's called the alternatives. You know, you go through all that you know. You go through the analysis part, and then you come up with what's called the alternatives. Communicating alternatives, letting people know that hey, they're not backed into a corner. They got options. You know, there's various alternatives with various degrees of skill sets that's needed, various degrees of resources that's needed, various types of participants that's needed in the process. Having alternatives is a big deal when you're facing limited resources, right? You may not have the resources to take one option. You may only be able to take another option, and it's good to have alternatives. And finally, communicating feedback is important. Letting people know throughout the company, throughout the market, how things are progressing, what the challenges are, what the problems are, what are the successes, what things can be done better, you know, or what things are going well, or what things are not moving at satisfactory pace. Feedback is very important for also motivating, for also unifying and encouraging people. And of course, encouraging people to get resources to better their skill sets, to utilize this versus that. Feedback is very important. So that's what we want to cover today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to providing you with future videos in the future. Thank you.